This intro is pretty funny. Do you hear it?
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live!
You are listening to the Dan Gould Show.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Innovation.
Infiltrate the dealers,
Do it live!
find the supply.
I'll write it and
Simple.
we'll do it live!
Innovation. Innovation. Innovation.
This is like it's literally like flying a spaceship. Okay, there we go.
Innovation. Innovation.
Yo. Okay. So just say something to your mic, see if you can hear it.
Hello.
Okay, perfect. So welcome everybody back to the Dan Gould Show. I don't know what episode it is. It's like this is like technically season 2 because I got lazy in the beginning of the year, so we just started everything over again. And so this is technically, I think, episode 2 of season 2, if you want to count it that way. It's Wednesday night. I'm here with Kyana Gordon.
Hey, what's up?
My guest for tonight. So I was like preparing all these notes, but then I got really busy, so I just have all the raw notes here. So let me just do an intro, and then I'm gonna like talk about a topic, and then we can jump into your work. So Kyana Gordon is an independent strategist, researcher, and writer applying radical thought to spaces where marginalized voices and business transformation meet. It's a very succinct elevator statement. I have no such thing. I know you were working on your website a while ago. Was it we had someone last week on who was talking about personal branding. Like was it easy or challenging for you to kind of distill the essence of what you do down into a sentence or into a web page? I always wonder that.
Well, I think it was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Right.
Mainly because I wanted to really hone in on who I was and really get that across in a very simple, matter-of-fact way. But I couldn't say, Kyana Gordon, she's for real and a strategist, and I had to be a bit formal.
I know, that's the thing. Like I want to have more personality, and I've actually been experimenting with it on social media. But it's a danger though of like trying to find that balance. Mm-hmm. Okay, so before we jump into your work, I want to talk about space. So I just think this is crazy. Where's my Twitter? So Sparks and Honey came out with this report that was talking about how like space is the next frontier for innovation, and we gotta look to the skies. And so I thought that was kind of crazy. I thought it was a little bit kind of like science fiction futurism. But then this report came out. Let me see here. Oh yeah, when I stream, the internet's really slow. Well, while it's loading, I'll talk about the gist of it. Basically, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and some other financial institution are saying the same thing. They're like, space is where we got to put more money into space. They did a valuation of the asteroid belt, and it was like $1 quintillion. I don't even know how much. I don't even know what that is. Okay, here we go. So yeah, the space industry will be worth nearly $3 trillion in 30 years. Bank of America predicts. And I think it's crazy. Like we both work in kind of the strategy innovation space, and it's like is space something anyone should even be talking about right now? It just seems ridiculous, and we can't figure out how to do things here on Earth.
That is definitely true, but I feel like right now we're in a pay-to-play mode. Like if you have the money, you can explore anything that you want to. You
That's
can
true.
Explore underground bunkers. So here's another example of how we're trying to commercialize something that doesn't need to be commercialized. So, I mean, are people going to be owning stars next? Like
I know.
outside of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So it's really interesting to see and hear about commodifying actual space beyond space travel and what that would look like, it just, I think, is an over, like, zealous way to describe how greedy people are.
Exactly. I don't know.
That's crazy. Like,
think,
I'm really more into space, like Sun Ra, like Space is the Place type of space, kind of infiltration of culture.
Yeah.
Because even still, Sun Ra's orchestra is still thriving. They're about 90 years old.
What would you describe? What would you describe that whole vibe? That whole.
I wouldn't call it like Afrofuturism, but I mean, he did really kick off something very special and unique in his belief system of, you know, having himself be from another planet and then have this whole orchestra full of like people that believed in his whole set of beliefs.
That's awesome. I think that's really fascinating, like in creating sort of this like mythos, or I don't know what you would call it, like but I guess all mythology is to some degree a story. That's dope though. Okay. I need more screens because I have like everything open here. Okay. So what are you working on these days that you can talk about? Or what are some projects that you've worked on recently that were interesting or surprised you?
I mean, I feel really fortunate to be able to do the kind of work that I do because it's a lot of exploring. So I think, you know, companies are like, we have this thing that we're trying to figure out. And I'm like, well, okay, but have you thought about how this affects Black people or how this affects, you know, gay people, or, you know, how this would affect a community? So really kind of looking at things from like a deeper dive instead of like, you know, retail trends.
Here's what millennials are doing.
Yeah, here's what millennials are doing. And I feel like millennials are doing just what every other generation that was doing.
I know. So when clients come to you, are their questions usually pretty bad? And you have to help them not only understand in a deeper way, but do you help them kind of reformulate the questions?
I mean, I think firstly, they come to me, I don't know, I've kind of, in a purposeful way, positioned myself as someone that you come to when you want to experiment.
Right.
And so I think people come to me with this idea of like, well, we want to do like a research project / art project / you know, film, video, and it be ethnography. So it's kind of a mishmash of all that stuff, but it's really kind of getting to the heart of, one, why people are doing what they're doing. And it feels like a lot less commercial than being like, oh, we're a brand and we're just trying to like understand why moms in Texas, you know, like this kind of shampoo.
Right.
It's more of like larger themes, like exploring how like technology plays a role in everyday people's lives, or, you know, just overall the cultural implications of particular, you know, things that these clients want to learn.
I loved some of the samples you had from the work that you did with Google. Was it about the digital assistant? I forget what I should know the name. But I loved you had a slide on your webpage where it was like, I don't have time for that, right? You know, when one woman was talking about if she can't figure out how it works, she's just gonna like put it away.
Yeah, that project, I need to have a padlock on my website. I was trying to figure that out.
What do you mean?
Because I shouldn't be having those case studies up there.
Okay. I mean, it's an insight. It's not the application of the insight, so I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how it all works when people are like non-disclosure, but it is the work and I own it.
So you do. So I thought those insights were really, really interesting, because I think a lot of technology manufacturers don't even think about it. They're just like, people love our stuff and they're going to use it. They're not thinking about, a lot of the times, they're not thinking about the reality of the situation.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think that's why your work is so powerful, because you bring your perspective and your ability to see deeper, but you're also out in the field. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the big things with a lot of companies and market researchers, is they're just in the boardroom and they get like syndicated reports about millennials or about moms or whatever, and then they kind of make up their worldview from that. So generally speaking, is your work pretty field heavy? Going out and actually talking to people, interviewing people?
I would say I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of that type of work in the last 4 years, especially like with the Google project that you just mentioned. I got to spend a lot of time in different urban and rural places and kind of get an understanding of what people are doing and kind of their use of technology and how they think about it. People like age 80, you know, and you know, there's an impression of, oh, you know, they don't have a sophisticated, you know, hands-on approach to technology. And, you know, talking to young people who are like, I don't use that shit, you know, so it just kind of subverts the whole idea. And I think also outside of the boardroom, it's also outside of like companies. People just sit at desks all day. They don't really have an opportunity to explore and like go out and speak to people.
It's insane. And I mean, I don't, yeah, like, no, people don't do that. It's actually funny that they need to hire someone to go out and understand the thing that they're selling or the people that they're selling to. I mean, but I guess your job wouldn't exist if it wasn't the case. But I think you also bring.
But my work is more internal. Yeah. You know, it's like more helping like product teams figure out, like, kind of dimensionalize like the work that they're doing, because, you know, so many companies are data driven and so chock full of data, but it's really nice to kind of give people's perspectives. It's on a lot smaller scale, but it's like a lot more useful to kind of hear people be like, yeah, like it would be really great if Siri, from the moment I got my phone, walked me through how to set it up. You know?
God. You know, does it do that? Because it should.
No, you know, and that's like how it would be an easier way for people to adopt the technology. That's what some people said. So if you're talking to people, you're just like, oh, wow, like you're even giving use cases of how this technology could be used that's not even in practice.
That's amazing. So do you generally find, is your work being put into practice right away? Are you working with these teams to kind of take the insights that you've discovered and work it into the product or the campaign, or do you generally kind of deliver it and they go off and run with it?
I think it's a combination of both. Video really, really helps to kind of drive that home outside of, you know, a deck. I think decks definitely serve a purpose, but you know, in, you know, my most recent experience, it's been really helpful to be able to film people and kind of like see those patterns come to life and like see how people react, and to also just kind of, you know, get like that real perspective.
What's the biggest challenge when you're out in the field? I mean, I feel like you probably pretty naturally can talk to a lot of different people, but what's the biggest challenge or thing that you kind of have to overcome to get people to open up, or maybe it's not the case?
People are afraid to talk on camera,
okay,
and they're suspicious as to like what this is used for. You know, I'm kind of.
Do you tell the name of the client, or is it usually secret?
I don't, but a lot of times they have to sign like paperwork to be on camera.
Yeah, I can imagine people getting weird with being on camera like that. I want to talk to you about your Diageo project. Or I want to talk about this methodology that you used in this project that you did in this alcohol brand, where you went out and you basically were like shadowing a group of women, or it was like kind of like a what's that thing called when you get a bunch of people together and talk?
Focus group.
A focus group. It's like a focus group in real life, in real time.
Yeah, I got really fortunate to work with this company, Wolf and Wilhelmina, and they had a really interesting approach to research. So, focus groups, they serve their purpose, but as well, it's kind of tricky and boring to like listen to people talk about what they want, and there's people behind glass, and it just seems like, you know, a little bit flat, and you know, people are like, I just want to get that $100, get me out of here, you know.
Have you ever been in a focus group?
Yeah, I'm like,
I did it once. It's great money.
Yeah.
So you instead of doing that, you were out in the world.
Instead of doing that, we had a group of women that were kind of like the target audience that the brand wanted to connect with, and we spent a weekend with them, because how else are you going to understand what drinking culture is like unless you're not like in a bar, or like, you know, understanding the transition between people going to work and then what happens after work. And a lot of it wasn't just about drinking. It was about, you know, how do people wind down? How do people transition out of work mode into like relax mode? How do women feel in the workplace? And just all these things about what it's like to be kind of a young woman in the working world, living in a city, you know? That's
so cool. Because I feel like someone doing like a data-driven approach to the same project would find like less than 1% of what you discovered actually being out there with people.
Perhaps.
That's so funny. Is it like method acting? Like, do you really embed yourself in these situations, or what kind of balance do you keep of like researcher, anthropologist versus just person that's talking to this person in a situation? Because it's got to be a weird thing, because it's like you're both in the conversation, but you're also kind of thinking about it in a meta level, or do you do that in different stages? Have the conversation, then kind of break it down afterwards.
I think, you know, I try to be as fluid and casual as possible to make people feel comfortable. And I definitely have this moniker from living in an island, and they used to call me Oprah because I ask so many questions. So I'm kind of like young Oprah. So I feel like, I don't know, I'm very disarming to people in a way. I don't know what it is. I'm silly.
What's your favorite question to ask anyone? Like someone new that you might meet, or it could be for work or not, but like what's I mean, you can just make it up too. Like
what's my favorite
What's a good question?
What's a good question? I love to ask people just about, I don't know. I'm just trying to think about the people that I ran into on my way here.
That's a funny thing too, because I feel like most people have a pretty small set of questions. They're like, "How was your weekend?" Or
no,
or
I like to ask people what's poppin', because it's like
that's
open,
a good one.
You know, like if you say what's poppin',
and poppin' generally it feels positive. You know?
Or it could be negative. You could be like, nothing's poppin'.
That's true.
You know, but I like to ask people what's poppin', because it could be like, well, it could be like I was at work. It could be like, oh, I brought my dog to the vet. It could be, you know, a number of things.
What's pop? I mean, that's a great title of a show.
Don't steal it. Oh, that's gonna be my show.
I know. My show title is lazy because I couldn't. All the ones I wanted were taken, so I just did Dan Gould show. What's poppin'? Let me check these levels here. Okay. So out of all your projects, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know why it looks like that. It's not supposed to look like that. There's like a middle piece, but you know what?
Oh, like a floating.
No, there's like, my website looks strange right there. It's not supposed to look like that. There's like a whole chunk of it missing. You know what? I was messing around with it today.
Okay.
Because I was trying to put a padlock on
Right.
my case studies, and I think I messed it up.
What do you use for this site?
Cargo.
Cargo. Is it pretty easy to use?
Yeah, if you're a designer, which I am not, I just was like, you know, deleting stuff, putting stuff on there, and like, if you reload that, what happens?
Okay, let me go back.
Oh my god.
Because the internet's actually working pretty good right now. Oh god damn it. You know, I think I actually was checking internet stats for some reason, and we're like peak internet for Time Warner Spectrum is like right now. It's from like 6 to 10. The spike goes up like, this is like the worst time to record a show or to stream a show because everyone's online right now.
Oh, I have Fios.
You do? Mm-hmm. Fios. We don't have Fios on this side of Manhattan.
Oh, that sucks.
God damn it. Okay, this is a fun fact, but a scary fact. So, I guess there was like Spectrum workers. They're trying to cut their benefits or something like that, and so, yeah, it's really bad. And they're actually really great. You know, contrary to popular belief, the people who work for Spectrum around here are magnificent. But anyway, there's an ad running on Twitter right now, and this seems unfathomable. So the CEO of Spectrum, he makes like $98.7 something million a year.
Whoa!
Do you know how much that breaks down to a day? It's like $200,000 something a day.
Holy shit!
How is that even possible?
Pardon my language.
No, that's fine.
Oh my god!
I don't know. That just blew my. I can't.
That's insane. I mean, that is the most bootleg
I know.
company in the world. Like, when I had Spectrum, I'm gonna go into my cable rant right now.
You got to do it.
When I had Spectrum, I was constantly, when it was formerly Time Warner, I was calling them all the time, and I work from home mainly, so I was losing my shit all the time. I'm like, are you serious? They're like, oh, we have an outage in your area again.
It would just shut off.
So, I mean, I would, if Verizon Fios is listening, I would gladly be in a commercial for you.
I'm excited because I think where we're moving, there is Fios, and I know it's supposed to be super fast.
Oh my god,
is it amazing?
It's a game changer.
God damn it!
You just go boop, and everything is like, you can have radio streaming, TV streaming.
That's what I need, because right now I'm like pushing the limits of whatever old ass cable that we're on right now. See, look at how slow this is.
That's insane. What are you doing?
I'm trying to look up this Spectrum ad about the CEO. Oh man. Okay. All right. That's amazing. So tell me about. Okay, there's a lot of different things to talk about. So you. How long did you live? What was the island that you lived on?
Beckway.
Okay. Where is that?
That is in the Caribbean, and it is south of Barbados, and it's this tiny 7 square mile island. I lived there initially for 6 months in 2013. So I went there first in 2012 after I finished the project for 2 weeks by myself, and no one was there because it was a dead slow season. And then I met this guy and I fell in love, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta move. And I coincidentally fell out of love with New York, so I decided to move there for 6 months.
Yeah, is that some place that you think you would go back, or how was it living and working there versus living and working near? I mean, obviously living's different, but
it's, I don't know.
Was your thinking any different?
It's just a completely different place. There's no advertising or branding there. All the signs on the island are like hand painted. It's a much slower pace. Like, most of the food that you consume comes from the sea, the trees, or someone's growing it. You know, it's just like a much more natural, back to nature kind of way. And it's like really, really simple. And I lived right on the ocean. It was fantastic. Yeah, the internet was popping there.
Really?
Yeah, because like nobody's like draining the internet.
Everyone's just out living their lives, having
people
fun.
are outside. No one's like, oh, I gotta be on the internet all day.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think you go back, or are you thinking about getting a place there?
I don't know if I'd go back. I feel like it was definitely
just
a
a period of time.
significant, poignant part of my 30s that I'm glad that I was able to do and make happen as part of my story. People be like, do you live here? Do you live on an island? Are you back? I'm like, oh, bougie. People asking me, do I live on an island? But yeah, I like to pretend like I'm retired.
Oh, that's amazing. What do you like about being retired? Or like, is that something you currently talk about?
I mean, it's kind of
like an air of mystery.
I mean, I just like to kind of go against the grain in terms of how you approach work and life in the city. And I move a lot slower than most people because I don't have to commute. And I feel like my life isn't like provincial, but it kind of is. Like,
you had a quote on Twitter, I think it was a John Waters quote, where you're like, success is not dealing with assholes or something like that.
Yeah, it was from a commencement speech.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, I don't have to commute, which takes away a lot of stress and anxiety commuting on the train in New York City. I don't have to work in an office, so I don't have to deal with politics and people tapping on my shoulder.
I gotta drop a bomb on that. I forget about the sound effects, but I'm supposed to be using them for effect. That's amazing. That's one thing one of the things I've always admired about you is that you've carved out this lifestyle, work-life lifestyle for yourself. And a lot of people either think they can't, or they get sucked into the very traditional 9-to-5 commute thing. Was that a conscious decision on your part, or did it just sort of work out that way?
Well, I think I've had a lot of jobs, and I think I'm just not a person that feels like I'm doing my best work sitting at an office.
Right.
I also pretty much have designed my life around the idea of freedom and being free and being able to do whatever I want to do within reason. And just really kind of being able, if I want to go to a museum tomorrow, I'm going to go to a museum. That's like part of the work that I'm doing. If I, it's just kind of a lot more of I've kind of taken stress. It's like a way of how I manage stress. Like all those things that I mentioned, like not working in an office, commuting, just like give me anxiety, aren't like the easiest way, but
because they suck.
Yeah, but it's not like I didn't do that for like 10 or 12 years
right.
of my life in New York. But then, I just got to a point where I can say, yeah, I don't work in offices. So people respect it.
Yeah, my friend Floyd, I think you know Floyd, he does, that's his whole thing too, is it's like it's like the worst thing ever if a client forces him or makes it so that he has to be in the office.
I agree with that. I will go for like meetings or for the free food that they got occasionally, but I'm like
exactly. I think offices are fantastic as a place to dip in and out of. But it's people I've worked with or some people like don't leave the floor that they're on. They're not going to another floor. That like all the meetings are there. That it's very convenient. The floor I'm on, you can get food, but like some people just don't leave the floor. Like it's crazy. Some people don't leave their desks. Some people don't.
That's not healthy for your body and your circulation.
I know. I try to build in. I intentionally build in lots of walking and things like that, and it's actually bad for your brain. I've done research on this.
That's bad for your brain.
Like moving is so important, and being out, like having stimulation or being out in nature. I don't know.
Yeah, and like this whole idea of like being busy, like my new hashtag is like people are like, how are you? I'm like, not busy.
Oh, I love that.
Because like when I'm not working, I'm like, writing or thinking super critically about something. Like, today I was talking to a few photographers about their perception of what images look like. And I don't know, I think stuff in the, is it generational or the era in which we live? Like, why are images so sharp? You know, like, is it HD? Is it like an obsession with perfection and Photoshop, or like manufacturing this hyper curated thing?
That's the thing. I think we've gone too far in that direction.
You know, so, and then I'm looking at, you know, this amazing scene from Goodfellas, and you're just like, dang, you're not gonna get that. Who is gonna get that steady cam shot of our generation? You know,
it's so funny because number one, I think in like graphic design for like a lot of new music, people are intentionally making their stuff look like it's from the 80s, or like even in using intentionally bad design or old photos because everything is so plastic and perfect. Even my new TV we have, it's like 4K and all this shit.
Oh yeah, that stuff looks so fake.
Like certain things like nature films or video games, those can look pretty good. But like I turned on the movie mode, which softens everything because it's too much. It doesn't look real. It's not what your eye sees. But you're talking about why images are so sharp and everything. Do you think you're thinking critically about these because it's messing with people, or what do you think the effect that this HD image-based society is? What do you think it's doing to people?
I think it's giving people, I think one, it's probably like playing tricks on people's eyes. It's also kind of giving people this sense of dysmorphia. Perhaps it's also making people think too much about what other people are doing. You know, right. It's just like so. It's like a
reality dysmorphia, because you typically think about body dysmorphia, but it's like their sense of reality is horribly skewed because of all this.
You know, there was this really cool article in the New York Times yesterday about these two photographers who traveled throughout the country to different Walmart parking lots. So apparently you can sleep in Walmart parking lots. And I was like, wow, check that out. Who knew that Walmart, as capitalist as they are, you know, like willingly knows that, you know, all these people are surviving by being able to sleep in their parking lots. So they documented it, and these photos are so beautiful, but I was like, you know, they're just too sharp, you know?
Interesting.
They look, I don't know, the people just look kind of like they're mannequins in their RVs. Like, if you pull it up, you'll see what I mean. But it's a beautiful project, and the photos are beautiful, but I definitely was like, wow, this, you know, has a different appeal than, say, I don't want to say like analog or 35 millimeter, but
it's just the feeling.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. You know, Walmart's probably done some not so good things, but they've also like surprisingly done these kind of on the down low good things, like letting people sleep in their parking lot. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think honestly that is, if we want to talk about like innovation and culture and trends.
Innovation.
I think that's, you know, survival. Like,
yeah, we don't need to go to fucking space.
When people
need places to live.
Yeah, when people are talking about, you know, the future of business and the future of retail, and people are like surviving by sleeping in Walmart.
Exactly.
Walmart parking lots. I think, you know, a lot of the people that are looking at cultural analysis, you know, I kind of question it a bit because I want to understand what their participation in culture is like. You know, how do they, like, is their lens of culture through like Googling things on like the search bar? Is there a lens of culture like, oh, I'm really active in these communities, or I'm super active on the internet, because the internet is definitely a valid community, and like a huge part of culture. See what I mean?
That's crazy.
Right? Like,
I saw this photo online, and I didn't know what to make of it out of context. I was like, is he a furry, or he must be a mascot? No, it's just a stuffed animal.
But like, click to this. I think you can click that top photo is like a slideshow.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of photos. It just, you see what I mean? It looks.
I know. There's a
like everything is. It's like so pristine and quiet. Where I feel like the main difference why I was talking about these images earlier is like in certain images you can insert yourself into them. Where I feel like these, as beautiful as they are,
this
you
feels
can't
like
really,
an art project. It's not really documenting the humanity of it. Interesting.
I think it is, but I think their cameras that they're using are hella expensive.
Right.
And the photo editing tools they're using, you know, they're really good at what they do. Like that photo is amazing.
I know. But it's also hilarious too. I don't know if you know, but on YouTube and on Instagram, there's like this whole van life hashtag. These dumb motherfuckers who basically they're like, well, they like live in a van on purpose and they think it's great and it's like it's like an aspirational lifestyle brand thing.
Huh.
In light of this story, it makes it even. I don't know how to think about it, but basically there's like.
So it's like some hippie shit.
Hippie or like
culture.
Or like I'm free, I can do what I want. It's kind of like the tiny house show where people are like, I'm simplifying my life, but it's sort of a delusional version of simplification. There's this one family, it's like husband and wife and a baby, and they live in a van. Like,
oh wow.
And so I don't know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, why not? Paying rent is so much money, and like having a house is so much money. Maybe
for like a couple or one person, but beyond that, I feel like a van would get pretty crowded pretty quickly.
Yeah, but I think that is like what actual true innovation means, is like the ingenuity to kind of think of creative ways into and out of a situation and creative solutions on how to live. Like
that's true.
You know, like that's.
I mean, that's what you're doing. That's
like survival.
Lifestyle innovation.
Innovation.
That's true though. I think we do need more lifestyle innovation because people. I think there's not a good menu of options for most people. It's like, I don't know. I do the 9-to-5 job. Yeah, there's not many. When you think about the archetypes of lifestyles that you can have, most people. I'm even having a hard time imagining it, but you've designed a very different lifestyle.
Working class people have.
Well, I mean, there's logistical concerns that prevent people from.
But I feel like working class people have like nicer schedules than 9-to-5ers because they wake up earlier. Mm-hmm. There's like shifts, and you know, you ain't working no overtime. If you working overtime, you gonna get paid.
I agree with you.
You know,
like modern,
like you working 7 to 2. You know.
I know.
And then you out and you be able to like.
You're not getting emails at home.
Yeah, you're not trying to think about like an iron worker. An iron worker is not like, oh, let me check my email real quick, see what's happening on the job site. You know, it's like, no, they're like, I'm done. I'm about to slam some brews with my crew.
I know it is. There is something very magical about having those cut and dry lines, and that's great. You go, and I've had jobs like this. You go and you work really hard, and you take your 15-minute break, and then your lunch break, and your other 15, and it's clear cut, and you do your work, and then you can shut off. I don't know. What?
But I mean, it's like, you know what could be innovated on? The rules of how to live. You know, it's like, I mean, someone made up corporate America. It's like, I was making a joke the other day about how it would be so funny when you're like waiting for something at work and you're tapping your shoulder and you could be like 2 hours later, you're like, bitches, it's done. Like, people can't talk like that.
Wait. Like you're waiting for someone to get you like a presentation or something?
Yeah. You're like, oh, it's done. And you're in the G chat. Meanwhile, I've been like, bitch, where's my shit at? You know?
You're like, motherfucker. How great would that be? You know what they should do? They should have
being like polite corporatees.
There should be a day, like, you know that movie The Purge? Not like that. We want to kill people, but there should be a day where it's called like Disrespect Day at work, where everyone you can be more real and upfront.
Yeah, obviously you should not be talking to people in a work situation like that. But I'm not gonna lie, I worked at a company where it was exactly like that. Like, you know, everybody was, you know, like, what? Excuse me, where's my shit?
Yeah, I worked at a printing company, and it was, you know, everything had to get done really quickly, and there was like salespeople who were like very type A and hot-headed, and so like people were yelling at each other, but it was good. It was actually like, it was kind of healthy in the I mean, it would go too far sometimes, and I actually had to learn to turn myself up in that context because I'm not normally like that, and I had to learn to be like confrontational in a good, in a healthy way.
Right.
And I think modern business culture is not like that. Everyone's doing passive aggressive emails.
Yeah,
and
I have a very hard time with that. I have a very hard time because I feel
it's as
like
if you could
everything
reply
is-
like "fuck you."
Right. Well, I wouldn't say it to that extreme, but I feel like when I go to meetings sometimes and I'm like hearing someone talk about, things in very corporatese, that's what I call it. The language in which people speak in offices is corporatese. I'm like,
Who are you?
well, I don't have a poker face. I'm really trying to work on that. Like I was talking to my friend and my work partner today, and he was telling me about a particular situation. And he's like, this is what I said to them. And he's like, but I know good and well I wasn't going to do that. And I was like, wow, how did you do that?
I know.
I'm like, ooh.
It's actually, yeah, man.
It's a skill. It's a skill to be able to navigate that, but not really be a part of it. But it's also a skill, I think, to like get up to like a SVP, EVP level. I would love to know what people do to like become like CEO.
And what they do all day.
Yeah.
What they do to get paid $98 million, like the CEO of Spectrum.
Yeah. Like I feel like, they're like, I'm in meetings all day. Like, what you talking about? What you
Oh,
mean?
God.
Like, we have broken service. Why isn't this working?
Yeah. Well, I think good CEOs are thinking about things and spending time and they're making decisions. But I feel like most executives that I come across, they're just literally in meetings all day.
Yeah. But what are
And that just doesn't seem good for your thinking.
No, but I also just feel it's like, I don't know, business culture. I'm telling you, business culture needs to be completely uprooted, upended, and like innovated upon. Like everyone's like, oh, we'll get you open office plans.
Oh
That's
my God,
innovation.
fuck that.
It's like, wow, great. Now everyone can see what I'm doing when I'm slacking off on my computer.
I hate open offices so much. I think if you have an open like communal space, that's cool. But like, you can't get work done.
No,
It's stupid.
I don't know. That's why people work till 10 o'clock at night, because half the time they're like, ooh, trying to like shade their screen from a passerby.
I know, because they're in meetings all day, and then
Yeah, nobody has time.
That's the thing. Like everyone's gonna be on social media or doing some personal stuff. But that's the thing is like most people actually don't do that much work. It's just they have meetings and bullshit, and they gotta like chat with people.
Maybe there also should be innovation on the meetings. Like,
Oh God, yeah.
I'm telling you, like
Having structure or
yeah. Why don't people come to a meeting with an agenda?
Oh, I know, and stick to it,
Right.
and not go off on tangents. You need like a time. There, some people have done work in that space. I know when I was working on a project with Undercurrent and another company, and they have like these rules, or they did at the time for how they did meetings and things like that, and it was pretty good. Like they had a whole structure of the beginning and the end, and like roles, and I think it was pretty good. But I don't know. I've always wanted to like just shut down a meeting or be like, this isn't going nowhere, and just walk out.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No, you can't do a lot of things. Like I feel like I have a friend that works at a tech company, and she was telling me, like, she said in the middle of a meeting, that's bullshit. And everyone was like up in arms, like
What?
they were like, oh, you can't be saying that, you can't be saying that, da-da-da. And it was like this big political thing, and it's like she's like head of a department. I'm like, were they giving you shit because you're a woman, or because, obviously saying bullshit in a meeting is probably not something that happens very often in meetings.
Depends who's there, yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like it's hard for people because sometimes you really have to practice constraint,
It can't be healthy. I'm thinking about it now, and it can't be healthy because people are holding back all this emotion. And where does that energy go? And it means everyone's being fake all the time in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's space for like a
There is
consultancy to like reimagine the workplace. It's tough
Yeah.
though. I mean, tough to implement.
I think organizationally wise, I mean, you know, people always talk about transparency. Like, if people had more insight into, like, okay, imagine the chain. Like, we're talking about Spectrum before. Imagine if the cable install folks had, you know, a peephole into, like, the C-suite.
Right.
And vice versa. And how that would kind of bridge some really interesting communication and open up, like, you know, because straight up, a working class person and some of the richest people in America where do they intersect?
Right.
And they could intersect at these companies, but they don't. So I think it's like, instead of sometimes doing these reports, it's like, man, it would be so fun to like do exercises like that kind of challenge people to kind of get
like
out of their comfort zone.
like have everyone dress casually and mix up teams. Yeah, I mean, I try to do that for innovation workshops, but like just to get the company to know each other.
Yeah, but I mean, even if, okay, on such a simple level, like a CEO has no idea what a day in the life of someone who installs cable in people's homes is like. And that is the crux of their service.
It's crazy. I mean, they should literally be like Undercover Boss or whatever that show. They should have to do that.
I just think it would be a really good, you know, understanding of like their business on a fundamental level, because it's like so high level, you know?
I know. I mean, that, like, to what we were talking about before, it's, I don't know, you will have more empathy for your employees, for the people that you,
Right.
who are ultimately your customers, because when you get to that high level, it's all just numbers on a page.
Right.
Or the faceless millennial or what, you know, whatever. It's just quotes around this fictional entity that you only know from PowerPoint presentations.
Oh man, I would love to know, like, who invented the word millennial? Like, I want to know who invented the word millennial, who invented the word content. Like,
Oh my God.
Someone tried to call me a millennial the other day. I'm like, I'm 38 years old. You don't even know what you're talking about. Like,
I found there was a report once, and they're like, in this report, we're looking at millennials, and by millennials we mean 13 to 34. It's such bullshit.
I mean, it's like so made up, and I think that's like the funniest thing. It's like, whoever made this up must be laughing so hard, being like, oh my God, these fools believe in this.
Well, I mean, all right, here's the thing. Like, there will be some similarities amongst an age group. And first of all, the traditional definition of 18 to 34, that's just stupid, because there's like 4 different subgroups in there. And then also depending on where you are in your life. So to some degree, there's going to be a little bit of similarity, maybe. But I just hate it. You know, when those generalizations, there's a certain level where it's like, okay, you know, they use technology this way, but then you're like, okay, where do they live? What is their family? You know, there's so many other variables that go into a person being a person.
Mm-hmm. They don't take into account a lot of it, like language differences, like, are you an
Cultural
immigrant?
differences, yeah.
Where were you born? Like, do you have any black friends? Like, any of that stuff.
I know. What? Yeah, like I hate millennials. I hate like when people are like multicultural marketing, or, you know, as if all these things are like separate things.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people just to kind of, I don't know. I think it's tricky. I think marketing is, you know, like, if you really look at the origins of marketing and how it came to be, you know, like post-depression era, like in the 50s. I mean, there's a lot of mirrors to today of like that idea of like perfect life, perfect family,
Right.
Perfect products, you know. But I think people with the dawn of the internet and, you know, like the internet is like basically run by like black teenagers essentially, you know, and like everything that
As far
bubbles
as
up,
like the cultural, the
Yeah.
cultural foundation. I don't want to say, I hate the word influence, but the people who are influencing
anything that
what's
people are
going on.
talking about, you know, that bubbles up to like a mass scale started out like, whether it's like something as simple as a word. Like On Fleek was a teenager that came up with that word. Now they're selling Target towels that say On Fleek on them.
Seriously?
Yeah, she just getting not a penny.
That's crazy.
Not a penny.
That's crazy because there's clearly a
Vine was Vine was the best for that, you know?
Vine was pretty magical. I don't know what do you do now? Snapchat? The Snapchat video like that?
No, I mean Vine was like, yo, it birthed so many young little comedians. I mean, I still die laughing at some Vine.
I know there's still good compilations on YouTube. What's popping with your social media? What is your thing? Twitter? Instagram?
No, not really.
Facebook?
I like to look at Twitter, but I feel like I'm going through a little phase with social media. Like I have to get on Facebook because I do social media for an agency.
Right.
But I say I probably look at Twitter the most. Instagram is hella addictive. Oh my God. You be like scrolling. Every day I'm scrolling. It's so addictive. I'm like, then I feel like, damn, I feel bad about myself. Like, why am I not in Fiji?
It's all it's all very addictive.
Yeah. What about you? What social media are you using the most?
It's always Twitter. I'm always very heavy on Twitter because I kind of use Twitter as my like RSS reader because I have like a really big mix of people in there.
I don't post that often on Twitter. I creep.
I know. I need to post more. Facebook is kind of that's more of a communications platform with people, but I'll like post kind of like trolly things and fun things just because generally people are like it's all the same shit, like the pictures of their family or the vacations.
No, but people use Facebook as their newsfeed.
I know. There's a stat about that, and it's like it's a ridiculously high number of people.
Yeah, like Facebook is to some people like the news. Like I only know this because my friend, I was talking to her on the phone the other day, and she was like telling me exactly that she's like because I was like, how do you use Facebook, or do you still use Facebook? Are you on Facebook? And she's like, yeah, I'm on Facebook, but because I follow like hyper local area news stuff.
Okay, that's crazy.
I know. I was like, because people aren't just going to like to NewYorkTimes.com.
I mean, even that's going to be biased to some or have a certain point. I mean, I was talking about this with Matt last week about when you're in high school, you should have like a media literacy and like a critical thinking, or like thinking about the stuff you read, because the whole argument about like fake news is an oversimplification of like just understanding the point of view or like fact checking. Even there's so many things that get sent around on Facebook, and half of them are like probably not exactly true. Do you still do much writing?
I do. I write not articles anymore.
You wrote over 500. I saw on PSFK. That's crazy.
I did write over 500 articles on PSFK. That was a good time in my life. Writing daily, publishing daily, and then using it to like travel and see places.
Oh yeah, that was the golden era of blogging. God bless. I mean, I went on a couple different trips, like basically press junkets, which was like I went. Virgin America started their flights to Las Vegas, and I got to go to that, and then I got to go to the Caribbean one year because it was some other blog had a thing where every year it was a surprise trip, so you didn't know where you were going. You just had to show up to the airport, and thankfully it was to the Bahamas, so it was great.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I mean, like making your money writing on the internet these days sounds like a nightmare, just because it's not. I think it's harder to get paid. There's way more people doing it. Yeah,
that's true. I also, I bless freelance writers. I love to read. I love journalism. I'm like, how y'all paying your rent?
I know.
Like, I mean, it would be hard to get those like little scrimple of coins that I was getting back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were probably getting paid fairly well. I think all things considered, but nowadays there's probably some robot or person in India who would write it for much less.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm writing more essays now and thinking about like everything in my life is gearing towards like slow. Like how can I, pitch long form stories that require a lot of research, a lot of
that's got to be such a pleasure to work on something like that.
yeah, like Medium is a really good platform for that still. I found this awesome magazine that I'm not going to reveal. They publish a story like once a month. And each story is like so thoroughly researched, and you can tell like, the person took maybe 3 to 4 months to write it.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Like I think that's kind of like where I am in terms of like my writing. It's like really taking my time with the story and seeing how it unfolds, seeing where the narrative goes, who is going to be involved to like help really build and like blow it out and make it, spectacular. But yeah, time. It's like instead of this like
I know, create all the content every day.
Yeah, that's what I think is like the funny thing about the word content is that it's just in place of the word like film, video, writing. I'm like, oh, I actually like those words, And so is content just static or it's just like advertorial for like Facebook?
I mean, it becomes just kind of a commodity. It's like a faceless commodity at that point. It's like just filling up pages and getting people to click.
Yeah.
That when I think about content, that's what I kind of think about.
Yeah, it's like filler. I mean, there's some good stuff, but I feel like, did you see like what Cards in Humanity?
When they bought the piece of
Yeah.
They bought the piece of property so the Trump wall can't go fully across the border. It's amazing.
Yeah, stuff like that. You're like, oh wow, that's actually a really cool way to like use your brand. Cards Against Humanity. That's what it's called, right? Cards for Humanity.
Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
Cards. I think it's Cards Against Humanity.
Yes. To do something for humanity. It's like kind of their name is a subversive. Yeah, that's like kind of one of the biggest, most baller things I've seen a company do in a very long time. It's like put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, yo,
it's actually
a company's making a political statement. Oh!
I know.
Like being human. Oh!
I know. So really quickly, William Strauss and Neil Howe are widely credited with naming the millennials. They coined the term in 1987.
Oh wow.
They wrote about these cohorts in their books, Generation: The History of America's Future, 1584 to 2069. Wow, I've got to read that book. And there's another one called Millennials Rising: The Next Great Generation. So we have those bastards to thank for that. But it's really the media who's at fault because they're the ones who propagated this. But hopefully we can change that. So any parting words? Any? What are you up to?
Yeah.
Are you traveling?
I am doing a little bit of traveling, but not anything crazy. I do have some parting words. I definitely think that there needs to be I think the main thing that I think is important and interesting in terms of a topic, in terms of everything that we're talking about from culture to business innovation, is diversity. I know that's like a buzzword to a lot of people, but I find it so important because for me starting out or anywhere, like I don't see anyone that looks like me, and I go into offices on a leadership level, on a senior level, and thank God there's a lot more writers now of all different types. And I just feel like, making that a priority in people's work, and really kind of having like a breath of voice, a breath of, like who you choose. I mean, I was looking at somebody who was like making fun of a conference, and it's like so sad. Like everybody constantly talks about this, but it's like, what are we doing to change it? Like, are you actively hiring people of color or marginalized people to be in your office to kind of help dimensionalize and like bring different things to the table. Like I feel like for a while I was like getting hired because I'm like the black girl strategist, and people were like, damn, we need somebody who's gonna give us some culture and like well-rounded. And it's like, I don't really want to be that person, but it's also nice to have a seat at the table when you feel like if you are going to be a representative of your race to help your race not get exploited. So I don't know. I think that to me is something like the creative industry, the tech industry, all these industries are very, very, very blanco. So, you know, I think that's like kind of my parting words, like do better.
I think that's amazing. Kyana Gordon, thank you so much for being here tonight. This was an awesome conversation.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
I will leave Kyana's information, Twitter handle, your website, or you're still working on the website, but we'll put it up.
No, the website's done. I just was doing things to it today that I shouldn't have been.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Deuces.
Innovation.